Ah, there it is. We're live. It's Monday.
Did it.
It's Monday. The beard is still going because it's game 7. Yeah, so next Monday, because we don't have a FUD with Friends this Friday, it'll be beardless. I'll be like a whole new person. It's going to be so exciting. And I can't
Absolutely.
But we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. If you're paying attention to the markets, it's Bloody Monday / the last couple of weeks or some nonsense. I don't know. It's been pretty crazy, but we're going to talk about that. What are we covering today, my friend?
Okay, so I threw together a lot of news today to make it a really traditional FUD episode. I feel like this is one of our early episodes where we were bullish on the idea that we need to tell people to think for themselves, which is how this all came to be. And that is what you're going to see in all of our news today. So we have a little bit of crypto arms race. We have like some fear mongering about Mica. We have some fear mongering about South Korea delisting a bunch of tokens. We have some fear mongering about like some sort of Argentinian El Salvador battle, which is not even, they're not battling. They both love Bitcoin. It's so weird. So that's kind of interspersed the crypto arms race. But we're going to talk about the market dumping. And we're going to talk about people saying, it's a bear market already, and how you might be able to counter that with your own critical thinking skills.
That's exciting. I'm excited. Let's dig in. Let's go. All right.
Yeah, there is also the Mt. Gox. Thanks for sending it. I was coming up this morning.
Yeah, I mean, Mt. Gox just can't stop fudding us. I mean, it's been what? I was in what, 20?
Before I was born. The other thing that I want to say is there's some rumblings too about something called the ETH data purge, and we're not touching on that today. I think we might do a deep dive episode on it later. So we're talking about an altcoin purge. This isn't the same as the ETH data purge. Just if you're going to be put out early on, I would.
Before we get going, your first FUD with Friends on Friday. We had Fungibles on, and we talked about.
I thought that was your second one. You had Patrick.
My second one, your first one.
Oh my.
What did you think of FUD with Friends?
Oh, I thought it was fun. Yeah. I feel like we could always, whenever we have friends on, we could talk for the whole hour.
Yeah. I mean, for anybody that's paying attention, the podcast actually is an hour. 30 minutes is like kind of in advance discussing topics and figuring out different things. FUD with Friends, we could do an hour.
Yeah.
But we're not sure if people want a full hour.
So tell us.
So let us know. Yeah. Let us know what you guys think. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot less us talking, a lot more
other people.
Interviewing people, actually, which is kind of cool because, opinions other than ours are probably exciting.
Okay.
All right, fine. Okay, let's go. So,
JD, is there an Altcoin Purge? Is everyone delisting? Is DeFi dead?
How much time you got? Like, I have heard in the last 24 hours such widely varying expectations of what's going on or analysis of what's happening or what's going to happen. It's insane. Like, someone yesterday was telling me and someone that I respect quite a bit and that has been around for a minute was telling me with 100% conviction that they think the bull market is going to be 25, 26. So we're going to have a massive bull market in 26. Based on what? Like I don't know. Anyways, so I find that a little bit hard to believe. I also find it a little bit hard to believe that the bull market is completely over today because there wasn't enough of a bull market to even call it that.
Okay, let's get into some of the news. Why do people think this?
People think this because anytime that we don't have like insane, massive appreciation of prices, people think the world's about to end. And we've had some kind of insane movements of prices, Bitcoin, ETH, et cetera, over the last few months. But there's been a lot of volatility. It's kind of been bouncing around a fairly broad range.
Tell me about delisting.
I will tell you about delisting, but this is all important stuff. Important stuff. Okay, fine. So people are kicking and screaming because Korea is now set to enforce their new regulations. So they have very stringent regulations on the cryptocurrency market, which could potentially lead to the delisting of 600 assets starting July 19th, 2024. With the new Virtual Asset User Protection Act, cryptocurrencies will undergo rigorous evaluations by exchanges to assess their reliability, security, and compliance. Assets failing to meet the new standards will face suspension from trading. I, first of all, don't care all that much about this. I mean, I think it indicates a bigger problem. And yes, you and I have been discussing this forever. Obviously, I'd love your thoughts on this, but I mean, what I think this indicates is exactly the transition process that we've been so concerned about. Is you put regulation in, it's sweeping, it's aggressive, it's stringent, and you don't make a viable way. And I don't know the South Korean system very well, but I'm assuming that if these 600 projects or tokens wanted to come in compliance tomorrow, they probably couldn't for a whole host of reasons.
Probably.
And that is very frustrating. But what are your thoughts?
Okay, so at first I was like, does this really matter? How big is the South Korean market anyway? So Bloomberg says that their daily average crypto trading volume in South Korea grew 24% to 3.6 trillion won last year. And those are fairly new stats that were just from last month. So I guess it's fairly big at $2.6 billion. That's probably a market that we don't want to lose, having 600 different altcoins.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of said that tongue in cheek, like, I don't care. I mean, South Korea, as far as Asian markets go, has been one of the greatest for adoption and proportion of the population that's using the assets. So, I mean, it does matter. It is a relatively significant volume in the global scheme of things. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a little bit of that crypto arms race. Like, what is South Korea doing? How are they being positioned? Are they actually putting regulation in place to protect people, or is there something else at play? And so with that, I actually want to switch to the Binance news as well, because Binance is looking at delisting altcoins and stablecoins. So they're looking to announce, well, they just announced that they're going to delist 4 cryptos: OMG Network, Waves, Wrapped NXM, and NEM on June 17th. So that was last week. Basically, they've said that they have really high trading standards, so they want to make sure that they're actually providing tokens that are worthwhile. And then further, they have announced that they're going to be delisting all trading pairs involving Ocean Protocol and Singularity Net effective July 1st, 2024. So Binance is doing this before the tokens merger into Fetch.ai. And okay, so there's a lot of stuff being delisted, and some of it's by country, and some of it's by DEX, and some of it's kind of here and there, and everyone has their own rules. But my question for you, JD, becomes, is this the worry that we have about regulation in DeFi? As regulation continues, as we have higher standards and more stringency, does that actually protect the consumer, or does that kind of bring us back into the TradFi realm in crypto?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you know exactly how I'm going to answer that. But I mean, it's the one thing that we've been most critical of so far, is that whatever you do with regulation, just make it so that it's not an unfair advantage for the people that were not here building and innovating in the space early on. And that is our TradFi friends. And unfortunately, if you look in the US or anywhere else, what's happened is DeFi has been challenged by the SEC and by everybody as often as possible. Yet now the floodgates have opened for TradFi approvals. So we're seeing all these TradFi institutions are the ones that are scooping up all the licenses and getting all the volumes and the access to regulated products. I mean, hopefully this isn't the demise of the space. I think the space will respond. Like, we'll find ways for DeFi, or at least meaningfully innovative DeFi, to survive. Yeah. I think we will see a lot of vaporware disappear. I think we'll see a lot of projects that are just kind of sticking around but aren't really planning on doing anything in addition to what they're already doing. They're not going to survive very long, I don't think, because they won't have the resources nor the drive to come into compliance. So we probably will see a purge of the space. Delistings at Binance happen every month, as far as I remember. So like,
it's actually not huge news. Same with Coinbase. I thought about just doing a whole delisting episode. I can find like hundreds of tokens that were delisted in the last 30 days.
Like the South Korea one, totally. I mean, that's a big deal. Like 600
For
assets
sure.
not
For
being able to be traded at all. Binance, I mean, there's been some times where Binance has removed like 10 plus pairs in 1 month. Like it just depends on that. I mean, there's trading standards, I think, are more based on volume and revenues, and then some reputation. So like if there's protocols that are like involved in some scandals or have really low volumes because they don't have a product that works or something, of course they're going to get delisted. Like, I mean,
okay, so the other delisting that's interesting is Mica, because this is almost the other side. It's stablecoins, right?
Yeah. So in response to the MiCA regulations, many cryptocurrency exchanges, including Uphold and Binance, are delisting certain stablecoins. The new MiCA rules aimed at enhancing regulatory oversight over fiat-backed and algorithmic stablecoins has prompted exchanges to adjust their offerings in the European and or the European economic area. Man, I apparently can't read today. As far as I understand, they're talking about getting rid of Uphold is talking about delisting DAI, FRAX, GUSD, USDP, TUSD, and USDT from its EEA operations starting July 1st, continuing to support only USDC, EUROC, and PYUSD.
Binance and Kraken, for the record, have also removed some of these tokens.
Yeah, Kraken has continued to support USDT, though, in Europe, whereas everybody else seems to have abandoned USDT as well. I mean, Circle and USDC is the most obviously compliant USD-backed stablecoin, and EUROC is the euro issued by the same company. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense. It's unfortunate, though, because they're somewhat king-making right now, just based on where and how they're giving out licenses. And that's the exact inverse of what we want in the space. That was the whole point, that we needed change, is because we needed to get rid of, this kind of nepotistic tendency. And I use that phrase loosely. I don't just mean family and friends, but, it's insiders and so on. Anyways, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But what do you think about this? Do you think this signals larger problems for the space, or is this good?
Well, I think this is something we already kind of knew was coming if you've been keeping up with MiCA. I don't think it should be some sort of buzz news bullshit. However, it's not great, again, from the concept of decentralized finance and the general degen ethos. So that's where I become more concerned about it. With that said, though, it's not as though everybody in DeFi is failing. If we take a look at Solana, just over the weekend, 3IQ, a leading digital asset manager in Canada, filed for the launch of a new Solana-based ETP, which is an exchange-traded product called Sol, on the Toronto Stock Exchange. I think this is a really big deal because this is kind of showing that DeFi can come into regular TradFi plays. So far, we've only had Bitcoin and ETH kind of playing this way, whereas Solana is a bit of an unlikely mover, if you will. JD, what do you think about this? Does this kind of counter all of this bad news about altcoins being delisted, or is it still moving too far into TradFi?
Well, again, I mean, it's exciting to see that we're, from a regulatory standpoint, starting to test beyond BTC and ETH, because BTC and ETH have really been the only two that we've really talked about for the last 5-7 years. Yeah. And so obviously I find that exciting. I think ETPs are different than ETFs. Of course, it's the product that's offered, not necessarily the equity in the asset, which is it's different. But it is interesting. What I don't like about this is, of course, that we're trying to get people all fired up about the Toronto Stock Exchange listing, which again is unfortunately trying to direct attention to the old way of doing things that we had all agreed wasn't working. Hence why we were here building. So, I mean, I don't find this to be that exciting. I don't think it's going to change the trajectory of the space. But yeah, I mean, it's another unfortunate symptom of reality matching my worst nightmares.
Okay, so we think that we have some good news here, but then if we jump down a couple articles, JD, we have Solana DEX trading volumes being like super low.
Yeah, well, because nothing really happens on Solana other than airdrop farming, NFTs, and all of this other nonsense, shit coins. But anyways, that being said, trading activity on the dexes within Solana has notably decreased to its lowest levels since March. I mean, yeah, the hype has definitely died since March. So this to me doesn't say a whole hell of a lot. The downturn is marked by a 7.9% drop in Sol's value, 22% decline in DEX volumes, and a 27% reduction in active wallets over the last week alone. The decrease coincides with a fading interest in meme coin trends, particularly highlighted by the downturn of Dog with Hat, which fell 7% over the week and 60% from the peak. No shit.
What, you didn't think the meme coin was going to be successful forever?
Well, I mean, if you haven't spoken with me ever before, then that would be a legitimate question. But I mean, of course, it's only a matter of time. We're playing in the shitcoin casino here. Like, they're all going to zero at some point. So, in my opinion. But what do you think about that?
JD, capture trade them. Okay, so it's just interesting, like, to have Solana, who hasn't been our primary player. We've seen them have a little bit of a come up this year with the meme coins, with some conference presence, with that kind of thing. Obviously, there are Sol maxis, but I think the majority of DeFi has agreed that it's like cumbersome, monolithic, not the best use for everyday sort of transactions, right? But they're having a pretty good rap. They now have the ETP. They actually have had an ETP in Europe for quite some time. There's a few articles we skipped over about how some people are super bullish on Solana. So we have all this good news, and then we have this super FUD news. But this news about the DEX trading volume shouldn't be a surprise. So if you really do believe in the technology that is Solana, you shouldn't be too concerned about DEX trading volume going down because meme coins aren't as popular. This is the FUD. This is what we want to counter here.
But also, it's implying that people want to trade. I mean, when the markets have dumped, and unless people think this is the end, which is then when everybody starts exiting en masse. I mean, if people just think that it's normal volatility, they're maybe going to halt trading for the foreseeable future. Like, who knows what could be leading to this? I think this is, again, a little bit of hyperbole here. I'm not sure that this even really matters.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that it matters. And then I found a bunch of other articles just to kind of move along. Crypto markets tumble. Major altcoins hit hard. The crypto market has experienced a significant downturn, led by a drop in Bitcoin's value. So it's Sol, it's Cardano, it's Avalanche, it's every meme coin possible are all erasing the gains made in the last year with super low volumes, super low rates. Some people are saying the lowest since 2023, which we're only partway through 2024, so I don't think that's such a big deal. And then we did see ETH go down. We did see Bitcoin go down. And we're seeing a lot of traditional tech stocks go down too. Remember that it's summer.
Well, and today, was that today? Yeah, today they were saying, well, what everybody's watching right now is Bitcoin is hovering above 60K. Yeah. And I mean, if it falls below 60K, then the expectations are quite poor. Yes. But not financial advice, I wouldn't trade it. Because there will be a lot of stop hunting. There's going to be a lot of interesting stuff happening if it does drop below 60K. So unless you really understand market mechanics, I would say stay the hell away from trying to trade it. But
this is the news that is making people say, is there a bear market? Even the Defiant is posting articles about there being a bear market.
I mean, unless we assume that it never really was a bull market, and it's just kind of been a continuation of the previous bear with a little bit of blips. But I don't know. Where am I here? So yeah, there's research conducted by Andre Dragos at ETC Group, suggesting that the global growth expectations, not Bitcoin ETFs or Fed policies, primarily influence Bitcoin's price. Totally disagree. Over 80% of Bitcoin's price movements in the last 6 months align with shift in global growth expectations, challenging the prevailing view that ETFs and halvings primarily drive market dynamics. Do you agree with his position?
No. Okay, are there general global ecosystem influencers? Sure, absolutely. If we're seeing other tech companies go down, if we're seeing the SEC case, or is it a tax case with NVIDIA? We're seeing that kind of thing. Of course, it impacts the crypto market. But the crypto market also has its own ecosystem that is further impacted by things like, I don't know, ETH tech upgrades.
I think a lot of it has to do with global growth expectations. I don't actually completely disagree. I just think what feeds those global growth expectations is ETFs, Fed policies, having there's a lot of influences that feed into this. What he's trying to do is trying to say that Bitcoin is operating healthily and it's not being manipulated by governments or by this and that. Fair, fine. I know what he's trying to claim, but it's just not true.
Okay, so this is actually why we have our whole next section called "Can we even trust experts?" or "How do I know what's real?" Because I'm not saying that this person is particularly wrong. I'm sure Andrei Jargosh knows more about world economics than I do. I hope so, if he's doing this analysis at least. But is he being quoted out of turn? Is this fear-mongering from journalism? Is he trying to get on the front page? Does he have a publicist who wants him to be in a particular way, right? There's all of these things to consider. And our next couple articles continue investigating that. So, for example, this next one is about tech billionaire Michael Dell and whether or not he likes Bitcoin. And so basically, he reportedly is considering an investment in Bitcoin. And that is the most nothing burger news that you could ever possibly have, is some millionaire might maybe buy something if he feels like it.
The speculation about Elon buying Bitcoin drives the price, so who knows?
Totally. This news comes amid a backdrop of market volatility, with Bitcoin's price recently retracting. I believe that we just talked about that, to almost 60,000. This is influenced by warnings from BlackRock and the Federal Reserve and comments by Donald Trump regarding U.S. dollar stability. So to me, this type of news is all fear-mongering. They don't have any true quotes from Michael Dell. They just have some speculation, and they've taken some things that he said in interviews, put them out of context, and thrown them into a news article so that they can get hits, right?
If we've learned anything over the last few years, it's not just in crypto news, but in all news. I mean, it's unfortunate how inaccurate and how opinion-based our news is. So much of it is people's opinions or activist-led, or on both sides, right, left. It's the same on both sides. It drives me freaking bananas.
So to me, this is wacky because this news is all like, Michael Dell could signal a new wave in corporate adoption. But at the same time, Trump says the US dollar is collapsing. So that could also signal a new wave in adoption. And so this is, to me, is almost like just a thought about why you might maybe want to buy Bitcoin. But then on the other hand, we have other millionaires saying that it's economic immortality. Are you a longevity maxi?
Am I?
Yeah. Do you get coffee enemas and eat raw milk?
No and yes.
I thought those were hand in hand.
Apparently, you do it while. But anyways, no, I think that the technology for us to significantly increase our life expectancy and quality of life during that life expectancy, I think we're probably getting pretty close from a tech perspective. So I think it is definitely possible, but that causes a whole new set of concerns for financial wherewithal. How does that impact global economics for the better or for the worse? I don't know. How does that work with population growth? Do we need to have as many kids then? Maybe not having as many kids is a good thing if we're going to start living forever. Yeah. I also disagree. A lot of the meaning of life comes from the finality. I don't know. Anyways, we could talk about this forever, but yeah, I definitely think we're going to live longer than generations past.
Well, that brings up the topic of economic immortality. Are you a Michael Saylor guy?
Yeah, no. So I don't. I like Michael Saylor in the sense that he's been a great steward of Bitcoin. He's been unwavering supporter for as long as I can remember, honestly. And so he's done some good for the space. He's brought the space in many ways mainstream against pretty thick criticism from everybody around him. But what he's forecasting now, Michael Saylor, is that Bitcoin could rise to $10 million per Bitcoin. He did an 84-minute podcast with Robin Sayer, where he discussed the transformative potential of Bitcoin, describing it as a means to achieve economic immortality for companies. And so what does that mean? He's more or less suggesting that previous systems and metrics are completely obsolete. What we should be looking at is the ability that Bitcoin provides, according to Saylor, to expand the life cycle of their companies significantly. I'm more interested in how he thinks that's going to happen. I didn't see a whole lot of that in these articles. But
no, you have to listen to the podcast.
Or listen to the podcast. Do you think, though, that A, Bitcoin can rise to $10 million per coin, and B, that holding Bitcoin on your company's balance sheet is going to lead to economic immortality?
I do like point B. Point A is difficult for someone like me to comment on because within my lifetime, no. On the other hand, if there is a huge destabilization of the US dollar, sure, maybe, why not? Go for it. But should companies be holding crypto? It seems like yes, right? All of our big major players are slowly moving into the crypto space. And if we are looking at things like longevity, if we are looking at BRICS breaking down the US dollar, etc., probably holding something like Bitcoin or gold, or the new gold, which is Bitcoin, will help your balance sheet. Do I think that makes a company immortal? No. But should you maybe pay attention to an article like this if you're thinking about succession planning for your family? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose in terms of like longevity, if Bitcoin has a generally appreciative price trajectory or value trajectory, then in theory, it allows for additional asset appreciation beyond what the business naturally would have had. And in theory, if you hold enough Bitcoin on your balance sheet and it goes from 60K to 10 million, I mean, of course, your business is going to have the assets and runway to continue. Now, the real question is, will you hold it long enough to actually achieve that? And companies like MicroStrategy, et cetera, are using corporate balance sheet money. They've raised a whole bunch of LP capital, I think, as far as I remember, for investing in Bitcoin. It's totally different than the average enterprise buying Bitcoin, because they have a different time horizon, probably different corporate governance. I mean, Saylor is able to do pretty much whatever he wants with MicroStrategy, seemingly.
Yes.
So it's just a different bet. I don't think, same thing. Most people that bought Bitcoin in 2011, 2012, some are still holding Bitcoin, but not those Bitcoin. Most likely they bought and sold and lost most of their upside by buying and selling, which is usually the case. So I don't know. Anyways,
what I do think is interesting here is we're talking about should a corporation do this, and then of course that brings forward the discussion about what governments want to do with Bitcoin, and that's kind of something we can wrap up on. But in these articles, they were talking a lot about China. That's probably because of BRICS. We are seeing this happen in LATAM as well, and I just want to highlight that. So both El Salvador, who has been donating Bitcoin for a long time, now Argentina, whose new leadership, whose new president is super bullish on just killing their own fiat currency and moving into Bitcoin. They are both pushing for big changes. So the Salvadorian government proposed a Bitcoin banking bill that will aim to establish private investment banks, allowing Bitcoin and other crypto services like basically to retail, which they didn't previously have. And then in Argentina, the president, Milei, confirmed that multiple currencies, including Bitcoin, will be allowed to compete with their fiat dollar for a more diversified economic country. These aren't specific enough news pieces, I think, for us to see a lot of progress, but we can tell, much like the corporations, that the powers that be are thinking about how they will be sustainable long term and how they are going to operate, whether it be a company or country or what have you, how they're going to operate in times of economic instability. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's good, obviously. Anybody that's been paying attention knows that both Argentina and El Salvador are pretty pro Bitcoin in particular, but crypto in general, especially of late, as their governments have changed. I think it's a good sign that there's countries and regulators coming out in clear support of the technology, trying to figure out how to bring it to the mainstream. So this is all kind of positive. It's not new, and it's not a change in either of their stances. I don't hate that it's being reported again, because I feel like it's something that naturally people other than maybe you and I and the poor souls that watch us on a regular basis would understand this or would have seen this multiple times before. So I don't mind that they're publishing stuff like this. It's a feel-good story. It's nothing new, though.
It's just good for consideration. Okay,
Totally.
That is your weekly FUD news roundup. Remember that they want you to click their article. Just remember that when you're reading the news, that their headlines are probably hypey or fear-mongering, and you need to have critical thought, and that's why we're here. So if you do find an article and you're not sure how to think about it or feel about it, feel free to send it our way, and we will review it live.
Yeah, the other ones are like the Bloomberg, where you can read like the first 3 lines and then you have to subscribe.
Yeah, so
it drives me bananas. Like the first paragraph is always like pure hyperbole then, because they're just trying to get you to.
There's a Bloomberg specific workaround, but I haven't found a good Forbes workaround yet.
Yeah, the Forbes one is tough too. You can't even see the words. It's obnoxious. Anyways, every Monday we do a weekend news roundup like this, a little bit longer form. We do a little bit more with each article than in episodes past, but it's a lot of fun. Every second Friday, we're doing FUD with Friends, which is other industry experts on different topics. So the next one is going to be in
not this Friday, next Friday.
11 days from now.
July 5th.
Plus or minus, day after Independence Day. And so watch out for the title and the guest and so on, so you can make a note in your calendar to participate. Like, share, subscribe, do the bell, all that kind of bananas, so that you can see every time we come on. That's all I got today.
JD.
I say to you today, Ceara, go FUD yourself.
Go FUD yourself.
Bye.
With that, I have to say, go FUD yourself.
Go FUD yourself.
Go FUD yourself.
Go FUD yourself.
Go FUD yourself. Go FUD yourself.